Michael Crick reporting. So will David Cameron's idea of rehabilitation work? With me now, Ben Gunn, a former lifer who spent 32 years in prison after he murdered a friend when he was 14 years old. Now a penal reformer, he has clashed with prison authorities on numerous occasions, recently for writing a prison blog. You were only released, 6 weeks ago. I'm wondering, first of all, before we deal with what David Cameron's proposing, if you had towed the line in prison instead of challenging, which you did the whole time.
Yes.
You accepted your crime, but you always challenged the life in the prison.
Yes.
Would you have had a better time?
Yes, I would have been
and
released.
You'd have got out quicker?
Much quicker. But I think if you put a questioning mind in an environment based on total control, he's bound to end up in trouble.
Is there anything therapeutic about total control?
No. No, it's dehumanizing, it's degrading. It infantilizes everybody who passes through the gates. And if you try and exert some sphere of liberty and choice and develop a personality, you clash. It's inevitable.
You see, the Prime Minister's talking about rehabilitation and retribution. I mean, I guess putting you inside at all is retribution.
Yeah.
And then what about rehabilitation?
I can't see. I was asked some years ago, could I envisage a rehabilitative prison? I said, well, no. The whole idea of imprisonment is loss of liberty and then other liberties, as well as physical liberty, and you're damaging people.
But you're happy about retribution?
The punishment has to be paid, a price has to be paid.
But on the rehabilitative front, I mean, surely there are people who need order in their lives.
Yes.
And some people think boot camps are a great idea, put people into the army and that'll teach them a bit of discipline. I mean, something went awry when you were 14, which presumably needed a bit of rectification.
Well, before that, a very disturbed home life, loss of my mother at an early age.
A story that's very common to many prisoners.
Yes, but I always said, right, life can lead you to a set of circumstances, as it did with me. How I dealt with those circumstances is firmly on my shoulders. I'm not saying my crime is because of external factors. How I dealt with the circumstances is firmly my responsibility.
But it left needs in you which needed to be habilitated. I mean, you needed. But did you need therapy? What regime could you imagine? Could you recommend, perhaps, to David Cameron, which would have a rehabilitative element and at the same time pay the retribution that you agree has to be paid?
I think this is the philosophical difficulty that no politician ever wants to face. Can you punish and rehabilitate?
Well, that's the question I'm asking you.
Well, I'd say no. You can't chop off a man's hands and then show him how to make watches.
But you can't murder another human being. You can't murder another human being and not have to pay that incarceratory sort of condition.
This is true. But then we'd have to philosophically accept that punishment and rehabilitation sometimes undermine each other. And you can go for one or the other, but not both, because then you just end up with the chaos that we're in.
But hang on a minute. We spent on you the same amount of money that it would have cost to put somebody through Eton. And we did it for 32 years.
Yes.
Are you telling me you couldn't spend that money better in an incarcerated condition?
Well, you could save prison for those people who genuinely pose a danger to society. Most prisoners are not there because of violent crime.
Far more education, all that.
You can. I mean, there is prison education, but I had to struggle. I got through my 2 degrees and halfway through my PhD, but I had to fight for that every step of the way. And you shouldn't have to fight a prison system to actually rehabilitate yourself. It should be there.
Let's hope the authorities are listening. They know about education and they know they don't do enough of it. I hope we'll be able to talk to you about it again. Ben Gunn,